In this video, Timmy is going to give you a complete overview of everything you should know about storing and accessing files on your Chromebook. Timmy's made a lot of videos in the past about how to do specific things on a Chromebook with files, but this is going to be more of a video that everyone should watch when they start using a Chromebook, to get a good idea of how the Files app actually works and how you can best use it to view and access and manage all of your files. Unfortunately, this video is going to be a bit long, but Timmy's tried to break it down into sections with time codes in the video description down below, so if it's too much for you to watch all at once, you could always watch it in a few chunks, or maybe you could skip around to the parts you most want to learn about. But with that said, let's begin. Whenever you want to do anything with files on your Chromebook, you'll need to use the Files app that comes pre-installed on every Chromebook. You might have already seen or used this app before, but if you haven't, the first thing you'll need to do is open it. So it might be pinned to the bottom bar across the bottom of the screen here with these other apps, and if it is somewhere there, all you need to do is click on it to open it up. But if it's not in that bottom bar, don't worry. You'll just need to click on this circle in the bottom left-hand corner to view all of your apps. And then if you scroll down in here, you should find it somewhere in here. And then you can click on it in here to open it. And now you'll be in the Files app. So now that you're in the Files app, let's take a tour of the different sections you'll find within the Files app and look at how they all work. If you look down the left-hand menu of the app here, you'll see we have all these different sections that kind of look like different folders. We have Recent and My Files and Google Drive and possibly some other sections like that. And they're kind of like folders, but they all work a bit differently and store files in different places and stuff. So the first one is Recent. And Recent can actually be a bit confusing a lot of the time. And Timmy will come back and explain more about Recent a bit later, but it's probably going to make more sense if we look at the other sections first. So moving on from Recent, the first proper normal section is My Files section. And this is basically where all the files that are actually stored on your Chromebook will be. So if you want to store files directly on your Chromebook so that they're actually stored on your Chromebook's hard drive, you want to put them all in here. So you can put files directly in My Files here if you want to, or you can create additional folders inside My Files and organize all of your files into different folders. And there will also be a few default folders that will be automatically created for you. And some might not be there, some might be there, depending on what you've done on your Chromebook so far. But we'll circle back to all of that in a minute. But just know, all of the files in the My Files section are all of the normal files that are stored on your Chromebook. Then, moving on, the next section we have is Google Drive. And files in here are actually not stored on your Chromebook. They're actually stored on the cloud on Google Drive. So Google Drive is this great Google service where you can store files on the cloud for free. So the files won't actually take up any storage space on your Chromebook because they won't be stored on there. Instead, they'll be stored on a server in a warehouse somewhere, but you can still access them whenever you want to over the internet. Normally, you would access your Google Drive files on the Google Drive website on a computer, or in the Google Drive app on a phone or tablet. But the Files app on your Chromebook actually has this section where you can directly access those same files right within the Files app. So if you click on Google Drive down here, it will automatically take you to the My Drive folder, which is the main folder where you can store files on the cloud on Google Drive. And there are a few other folders below that for different specific things. But basically, While all the files in the My Files section are stored on your Chromebook, all of these files in the Google Drive section will be stored on your Google account. So you can kind of think of these two sections as Chromebook and Google Drive. Sometimes files in the Google Drive section might also be stored on your Chromebook, but we'll discuss that a bit later on as well. And moving below that, the next section down here will usually be trash. And this seems pretty basic and self-explanatory. It's a standard trash folder. You delete files from your Chromebook, and then they appear in here, and then they wait in here for the next 30 days before they're actually deleted, so that if you wanted to get one back, you can come in here and restore it. But there is a bit of a caveat here, where only files that you delete from the My Files section will appear in this trash folder. So if you delete a file from the Google Drive section, it won't appear here. Instead, it will go to the trash folder on Google Drive. Timmy has a whole video on restoring files from the trash folder on your Chromebook, so if you ever need to retrieve a file, whether you deleted it from the My Files section or the Google Drive section, you can go and watch that video, and Timmy will show you how it works in full detail and how you can restore your files from either section. But until you do need to restore a file, you don't ever really need to use this section. So that's normally all of the sections, but if you connect an external hard drive or a flash drive or an SD card or something like that, so an external storage drive that you can plug into your Chromebook, that will actually add its own section down in between Google Drive and trash. And that section will be where you find all the files that are stored on that device. Timmy has another video where Timmy shows you how to use a flash drive on a Chromebook, and it works basically the same way for an SD card or an external hard drive, but if you have something like that connected and you want to use it, it will end up as an extra section down there. So you'll just find that extra section down there and you'll click on it and you'll see those files. And now that we've covered all the real sections, we can circle back and take a proper look at the recent section. So if we come up here and click on Recent here, the Recent section is basically just a list of your most recently used files from one of the other two sections. It doesn't seem to show all of your files, just some of the most recent ones. So if you wanted to find that file that you were using yesterday, but you can't remember which folder it was in or where it was, you could just come in here to the Recent section and quite easily find your file somewhere in here, because it's designed to show you your most recent files. But apart from something like that, where you're specifically looking for a recently used file, most of the time Timmy would personally recommend you avoid the Recent section and just view your files in the real section that they're actually stored in. Because the Recent section often just sort of creates a bit of confusion about where your files actually are and how they're all stored. But now that you understand a bit about the sections and how they work, let's take a look at some of the things you can actually do in the Files app to manage your files. So if we go back to the My Files section, for example, if you already have files in here, you'll see them all listed out like this now, and you can scroll down and look through them. And Timmy's looking at them in what's called List View, where you get a preview icon and the name and a few other details, and they're all listed out one at a time like that. But you might be looking at them in grid view like this, where they're all in squares and they're all laid out in a grid, and you get more of a preview of the file. And you can easily switch between the two by clicking this button up here. So if you're currently in grid view, it will be a list looking icon, and you click that, and that'll switch it to list view. Or if you're currently in list view, it will be this grid icon, and you can click that and switch to grid view. So It's really down to personal preference which one you prefer. They all work mostly the same apart from how you can see them. Timmy prefers to have it in list view, so Timmy's going to leave it set to that. But you could use grid view if you like. You'll still be able to follow along with the rest of the tutorial. It just might look slightly different for you. And once you've chosen your view, you can also sort the files if you want to. So by default, they should be sorted by date. So the most recent one will be at the top and the least recent one will be at the bottom. And that's usually the most helpful way to have them sorted. But if you wanted to change that for some reason, you can click on this A to Z icon up here, and now you'll have a few other options. So if you click on name here, you can sort them by name so that they'll be sorted alphabetically, or you could sort them by size and type. So if you wanted to see biggest to smallest or smallest to biggest, or if you wanted to see the type, so all the JPEGs are together and all the PNGs are together and so on like that. But Timmy's going to set it back to date modified because that kind of makes the most sense because it's showing you the file you most recently worked with up at the top, which is probably the file you're going to want. And once you've sorted out the layout and the sorting and everything, you can just scroll down through all your files, and when you see one you want to open, you can just double click on it to open it. So 2 clicks in a row like that, and then the file will open. And depending on what file it is, it might open in a different app, but it will usually be this gallery app here where you can look at it like this, or sometimes it might be Google Chrome or something, depending on the file type. But whatever it is and however it opens, once you've opened it and then you're done with it, you can just click the cross on that window to get out of that, and you'll be back to the Files app. And as Timmy mentioned before, you can also create new folders in here if you want to, so that you can organize all of your files a bit better. And Timmy has an entire separate video on creating folders on your Chromebook, so you might want to go and watch that to get a more in-depth tutorial about it. But basically, you just right-click or 2-finger click anywhere inside the Files section like this. And then in this menu that appears, just come down to New Folder and click New Folder. And now you'll have this new folder here, and the name New Folder is highlighted. So you can just type any name you want to give it a name. So we might just be really unoriginal and name it Timmy's folder or something. But you can just type whatever you want as the name there, and then just press enter. And now you'll have your new folder with its new name. And to go inside the folder, all you need to do is double click on it and you'll be inside it. And obviously, because this is a brand new folder with no files inside it, we can't see anything in it. But if the folder did have files inside it, we would see them all in here. But once you're in the folder, getting back out of it is actually slightly harder than getting into it. If we look up the top of the Files app here, we'll see it says Timmy's folder, and then this little arrow icon, and then My Files. So this kind of shows you where you are in the folder structure. So right now we're inside Timmy's folder, which is inside My Files. So if we click on My Files, it'll take us back out to the main My Files section. And it also works more helpfully if you have multiple folders. So if we go inside this folder and create a new folder inside Timmy's folder, so we'll give that a name, and then we'll double click on that folder to go inside there. Now, if we look up here, we have Timmy's other folder, which is inside Timmy's folder, which is inside the My Files folder. So now, if you're in this folder and you want to go back out of it, you can click on Timmy's folder to go just back one step back into Timmy's folder, Or if we click back in here, you could skip Timmy's folder and go all the way back to the My Files section by clicking back there. So when you start to go inside folders, you can use that top sort of menu that appears up the top to choose where you want to go back to when you want to go back out of the folder. And as you start to create folders on your Chromebook, you'll see this file structure starts to appear down the side of the screen. So as we can see, we already know, we have the My Files section here, which is the main folder that all the stuff on your Chromebook is stored inside. And then below it, we have the camera and the downloads folder, their default folders, which we'll discuss in a minute. And then we have Timmy's folder, which is the folder Timmy created. And because we created another folder inside Timmy's folder, there's this little arrow icon next to Timmy's folder here. So if you click that arrow icon, it will open up the drop down. And now there's Timmy's other folder inside Timmy's folder, which is inside the My Files folder. So you kind of have these three different layers. You have the main one, and then the secondary folders, and then additional folders inside a secondary folder, if you created extra folders like that. And you can also click on any of these folders to jump directly to them, like that. Or click My Files there to go back to My Files that way. So now that you've created some folders, you can obviously put files inside them if you want to. And Timmy already has 2 other videos about moving files on a Chromebook, where Timmy shows you how to move files in and out of folders. And Timmy also has another video about selecting files, where you can select multiple files at the same time. So if you wanted to move all of these 4 files into the folder, you don't have to do it one at a time. You can select them all and do it as a big batch like this. But you can watch that if you want to, or you can just do exactly what Timmy did and click on the little preview icon to select each file. And then all you need to do is, once you've selected your files like this, you can click and drag and drop it into any folder you want. So you can drop it directly inside Timmy's folder like that, or if you can't see Timmy's folder here because maybe you've scrolled down the list a long way, or maybe you want to move the files directly into Timmy's other folder, you can actually drop files into the side menu. So if we select this one and this one and this one, we can click and drag and we can drop files into that folder like that. So now, if we double click on Timmy's folder to go inside it, we have these 4 files which we just dragged into Timmy's folder, and they're all in here now. And if we double click on Timmy's other folder, we have these 3 files that we dragged into it by dropping there. So there's different ways to get to each folder. One way might be easier depending on the situation, so you can just use whichever option you prefer. But then, once you've moved some files into your folder, if you ever change your mind and you want to move files back out of the folder, it's basically the same process. So maybe we'll just select this file. We don't need to select multiple. We'll just move this file back out. You could click and drag and drop it in Timmy's folder. So you could move it out of Timmy's other folder, just back into Timmy's folder. Or you could move it right back to My Files. Or you could even put it in a different folder if you wanted to. But for this example, we'll just drag it back and drop it in My Files. And now, if we click My Files up here, or if we click My Files here, it'll do the same thing. And that file we just dragged back out is now back here. And if you ever want to delete a file, Timmy actually also has another video on that, but all you really need to do is select the file you want to delete by clicking on it. Don't double click on it because that would open it, just click on it normally, and then just come up to this trash can icon up here and click that. And now the file will be deleted. So the file will go down into the trash folder for the next 30 days. So if you change your mind within the next 30 days and you want to restore it, you can go back in the trash folder and restore it. And while it's in the trash folder, it will still take up space on your Chromebook. So if you wanted to free up a lot of space on your Chromebook quickly, you might want to go and empty it from the trash folder immediately so that it's gone. But if you do that, or if it's been more than 30 days and the file is permanently deleted automatically, then the file will no longer exist at all. So there's no possible way that you can restore it. So that's just something you'll want to keep in mind when you delete files from your Chromebook. You'll only have 30 days to change your mind, or possibly even less if you've manually permanently deleted it. And the same thing basically goes for if you delete files from Google Drive. It'll just be in the Google Drive trash folder instead, but really the same thing will happen. And if you delete files from a flash drive or an external hard drive or something like that, they'll actually be permanently deleted immediately. So you'll want to be very careful if you ever delete files from a flash drive, because as soon as you've done it, there's no way to get them back. But moving on from that, it's also possible to see additional information about a file if you want to. All you need to do is click on the file you want to see additional information about. And so just single click on it like that. Don't double click on it once again. And then just press the space bar on your Chromebook's keyboard. And now, depending on what the file type is, you'll probably see a preview of it here. So this is a picture, so we can see this picture here. And it'll usually give you a preview. And over here, we get a whole lot of information about the file. So we have the size and the date that it was last modified and the type. And we also have the file location. And this might seem pretty stupid to you right now, because if you've found this file in order to click on it and view the information, you surely already know the file location. And that's mostly true, but if you've found the file in the recent section, or if you've found the file by searching for it, which we'll get to later on, you might not know the location of the file. So if you find it somewhere like that, it can actually be quite helpful to be able to pull up this menu and see where the file is actually stored. And then down below this line, you'll also have some information about the file and file type. So because this is a JPEG image, it says image info, and we see the dimensions of the image and the device that took it and some settings and things like that. And obviously you will see different information depending on what the file is. If it was a PNG, you might not get some of this info about the camera, or if it was a video, you might see the duration of the video as well as the dimensions and stuff like that. Or if it was a PDF, Timmy actually has one Timmy can show you. If you did this on a PDF, it actually shows you nothing at all. So it depends what type of file, what stuff you get, but you often get some helpful details like that, which can be quite helpful. And then once you're done looking at all the information, all you need to do is click on this back arrow up here, and you'll be back to the main files section. So now that you're fairly familiar with how the Files app works, let's take a look at some of the default folders in the My Files section that Timmy mentioned earlier. So the Downloads is the most common one. Every Chromebook will have a Downloads folder, and that's fairly self-explanatory really. Anytime you download a file from Google Chrome, it'll automatically download it into this folder. So if you've been on a website in Google Chrome or something, and you've downloaded a file, and you're looking for it, you'll want to come in here to the My Files section, and then into Downloads, and you'll find it in here. And now it's up to you what you want to do with it from here. You could just find the file and open it and look at it and maybe then end up deleting it or something. Or if you want to save the file, you could keep it in the downloads folder if you wanted to. You could create folders inside the downloads folder, so you could organize your downloaded files and keep them all within the downloads folder. Or you can actually move them out of the downloads folder if you want to and put them anywhere else. So perhaps we'll select them all and drag them back to the My Files folder. And now, if we click back here, they're all in the My Files folder. So whenever you download additional files in the future, they'll still go into the downloads folder, but if you want to, you can move them anywhere else you want. And next up, we also have the camera folder, and you might not have the camera folder on your Chromebook, but if you've ever used the built-in camera app on your Chromebook to take pictures with your Chromebook's built-in camera, it will automatically create this camera folder for you, and any pictures or videos you take with your Chromebook's camera will appear in here. So if we go in here, we'll see a whole lot of pictures and videos that Timmy's taken with Timmy's Chromebook's camera. And this is just like the downloads folder, but for camera files. So you can move these out of here, you can create folders in here, you can do whatever you want with them in here, but whenever you take a picture, it will appear in there. And moving on from that, the next folder is the Play Files folder. And this one is a bit more complicated. If you've ever installed any Android apps on your Chromebook, you'll have this folder called Play Files, and this folder can be a bit confusing, but you probably won't need to use it very often anyway. On a Chromebook, you can install Android apps that would normally be installed on an Android phone or tablet, and some of those Android apps will sometimes save files into this Play Files folder. If we double click on it to open it up, you'll see we have these 4 different folders, and you can't change these folders. They're just stuck being these 4. So you probably won't want to store any files in here, but if you use an Android app to edit photos or videos or work on documents or something like that, when you save a file within that app, it might be saved into the Pictures folder or the Documents folder or something like that in here. So if you do use an app like that, and you've saved a photo or a video or something from that app, and you're trying to find that file now, you'll probably find it in one of these 4 folders in here. But once you find it, you probably want to move it out of the Play Files folder and store it in My Files or on Google Drive or something like that. And apart from that one specific use, there's really no reason to come into the Play Files folder at all. You really don't want to be storing any of your normal other files in here, because that's just kind of a bit unnecessarily complicated. But moving on to the folders in the Google Drive section, Timmy touched on the My Drive folder before, and this is the main folder where you can store stuff in Google Drive. So you can save files in here, and you can open your files and view them, and you can sort them, and you can create folders and move files in and out of them, all just like Timmy showed you in the My Files section. And if you've ever uploaded a file to Google Drive from the Google Drive website or the Google Drive app on a phone or tablet, this is where the file will end up. So this is really the folder where all the stuff that you actually store on Google Drive will be stored. But if we move down below that, the next folder is called Computers. And you can't actually put any files in here or edit existing files that are already in here or anything like that. This is just where you'll find a backup of any Windows or Mac computer you might have. So if you have a Windows or Mac computer that you've set up to automatically back up all of its files to Google Drive, you'll see those backed up files here. So you might have your Windows computer or your Mac in that folder, and then you could go in there and see all the files from that computer. So if you have set that up, you can come into the computers section and find a file there and view all the files. And you could even copy some of the files across to your Chromebook if you wanted to. But for a lot of people who don't have another computer or who don't have that other computer backing files up to Google Drive, this will just be an empty folder and there's really no reason for you to use it. So we can skip that one and come down to Shared with Me. And Shared with Me can often confuse a lot of people. Google Drive has a useful feature that allows you to share files with another person, and Timmy has several videos about that as well. But if people have ever shared files with you via Google Drive, those files will show up in this Shared with Me section here. Don't worry, these files do not take up any space on your Chromebook, and they don't even take up any space on your Google Drive storage quota either. So they're not really affecting you that they're in here. It's just basically showing you a list of all the files that have been shared with you. So if you ever wanted to access one of them, you can just come in here and easily find it if you ever want it. And sometimes you might even click on a shareable Google Drive link online to view a PDF or something like that. And that can actually count as having a file shared with you. So you might see a few random files in here that you don't think anyone has ever shared with you, but they're probably just files that you briefly looked at online and then forgot about. And these shared files can often show up in the Recent section up the top here that Timmy talked about before, even though they're not really your files and they're not really on your Chromebook at all. So that's another reason why Timmy wouldn't recommend looking at the Recent section, because you might see quite a few files that aren't really yours. If certain shared files in here bother you, you can remove them if you want to, so that they won't show up in this shared section or the Recent section anymore. But unfortunately, you have to go to the Google Drive website to remove them. And then once you've removed them from the Google Drive website, they'll disappear from the Files app. Unfortunately though, you can't actually just remove them directly from the Files app. But luckily, Timmy has another video on how to remove those files from Google Drive as well. But if someone has shared a file with you on Google Drive and you want to find it and open it up, you can just simply come in here and scroll down till you find it and double click on it to open it. But if you're not doing anything like that, you're not using sharing at all, you really don't need to come in here. And the last folder will be offline. And this will basically show you a list of any Google Drive files that you have saved to be available offline. So because all of these files in the Google Drive section are stored on Google Drive, you can access them whenever you want as long as your Chromebook is connected to the internet. But if you're not connected to the internet, you can't access any of the files that are on Google Drive because they're not physically stored on your Chromebook. So while you are connected to the internet, you can come in here to the My Drive folder and you can select some specific files that you want to be able to access offline. So maybe we'll go this one and that one and maybe that one. And again, Timmy has another video about how to select multiple files like this on your Chromebook if you want to learn that in more detail. And then once you've selected the files you want to save offline, you just need to come up to the top here and click on this switch that says Available Offline. And now it will download those files to your Chromebook. So they're still stored on Google Drive, but now they're also stored on your Chromebook, so that when you go offline, you will still be able to access them. So, as you can see, each file we had selected now has this tick next to it that means it's available offline. So if you're about to go offline, but you need a few files, you can download them like this, and then you can check they have a tick there to verify that they're saved offline. And now, when we go into the offline folder down here, we'll see all of these files that we saved offline. So you can't do a lot with them in here because this is a read-only file. So this is just a list of all the files. You can't change them or add stuff to them or do anything like that. You can really just look at them in here. So if you want to see a list of all your files that are available offline within Google Drive, you can look at them in here. But most of the time, Timmy would recommend you just stay in the My Drive folder. You can still access the My Drive folder while you're offline. You'll just only be able to open files that have this tick next to them. So Timmy probably wouldn't really recommend using the offline folder very much. If you want to use offline Google Drive files, you can still just come into the My Drive folder and pretty much use them like normal. And there are actually a few other reasons that files in Google Drive might be stored offline on your Chromebook. If you've recently opened or used a file that's in this Google Drive section, it will be temporarily downloaded to your Chromebook so that you can use it, and then it will be briefly stored on your Chromebook for a little while after that, in case you want to open it again, so it's just there rather than deleting it and having to re-download it a few minutes later. Or if you had a file in the My Files section or on a flash drive or something, and you moved that file from the My Files section or the flash drive across into Google Drive, your Chromebook will have to upload the file to Google Drive, and that can take quite a while for it to upload with a large file. So it might still be stored on your Chromebook until it finishes uploading to Google Drive, and then it will often stay on your Chromebook for a little while longer after that, so that you can open it really quickly without having to re-download it. But generally speaking, all of the files in the Google Drive section will be stored on Google Drive, not on your Chromebook. But moving on from Google Drive, there's also a helpful search functionality in the Files app that allows you to search for a file without needing to know exactly where to look for it. You do need to know the name of the file, or at least part of the name of the file, but that's hopefully a lot easier to guess than the file's location. So, if we go into the My Files section, for example, all you need to do is click on this search icon here, and now start typing the name of the file. So, it doesn't have to be perfect, you don't have to go from beginning to end. Just start typing any portion of any word that's in the file's name. So if we type EX, for example, we have two files in the My Files section that have example in the name. So because they say example and we started typing example, they've both come up. So we can see both of them here. And at the moment, it's only showing you search results for the section you're currently in. So if you're in Google Drive and you clicked on the search, it would show you results for Google Drive, but we're on My Files, so it's showing us results in My Files. But we can actually click My Files here and change this to Everywhere. So now it will search for any file or folder with EX in the name on either My Files or in Google Drive. So a lot more stuff has come up here, and we might continue typing example to try and narrow it down, but Timmy has a lot of files with example in the name, so it's still brought up quite a lot of files for that. But as we can see, now that we've typed we'll start at type example, we now have all these files that have come up. And if you want to narrow it down even further, you can filter by the time, so today, yesterday, last week. So if you know when you created the file or when you last modified it, that might help. And you can also filter by type. So if you were looking for a video specifically or something, you could do that to help narrow it down a bit and have less files showing here if you want to. And once you find the file you're looking for in the search, you can also now find out where the file is actually stored. If we single click or normal click on the file to select it like this, we can just press the space bar, just like we did before, and now we'll see this info panel. So now we can see this file was actually shared with Timmy in Google Drive. So this file is in the Google Drive section in the Shared With Me folder. Or if we go back from that, maybe we'll go with this video. If we press the space here, that says Shared With Me as well. Timmy will try and find a file that doesn't say Shared With Me. Maybe we'll switch it back to just My Files. So if we select this file and press the space bar, we can now see that this file location is My Files, Timmy's folder, and then the name of the file. So we now know this file is inside Timmy's folder, which is inside the My Files section. So if you look for your file and you find it in the search, you can now click on it and press the space bar and pull up this panel. And now you know exactly where the file is actually stored. So if you want to try and remember that for the future, or you want to go and find it now you can. And when you're done with all this and you want to get rid of the search results, all you need to do is click this cross in the search box here, and you'll be back to normal. And last but not least, we should also talk about storage on your Chromebook, because storage on your Chromebook is a bit different to storage on a Windows computer or a Mac computer. Chromebooks usually don't have very much storage built in, because the idea is that you'll store most of your files on Google Drive, so you shouldn't really need much storage. A lot of Chromebooks these days do actually have quite a reasonable amount of storage, so depending on what sort of files you have, you can probably store all of your files on your Chromebook if you want to, but you'll still want to keep an eye on how much storage space you have left. To do that, make sure you're in the My Files section, so just click on My Files here, and then come up and click on the three dots in the top right-hand corner of the Files app. And now, down the bottom here, we can see we have 16.1 gigabytes available. So that's how much storage is still available on Timmy's specific Chromebook. Yours will almost definitely be a different number to that. But now you know you have that much spare storage still available on your Chromebook. And this bar here will represent how full it is. So the entire bar is the storage on your Chromebook, and the more dark green bar is how much storage you're already using. So 16 gigabytes in Timmy's case is actually quite a lot of storage. So if Timmy was just saving some basic files like a few pictures, some screenshots, and some documents and things like that, 16 gigabytes would really be plenty more space, and Timmy could just carry on saving files to that for quite a bit longer. But whatever number your Chromebook says down here, that's how much storage you have left. And you want to keep coming in here fairly regularly and just make sure you're not close to running out of storage, because if your Chromebook ever does run out of storage space, it will give you a notification telling you it's out of storage space, and then it will sometimes actually start to delete files that are in the My Files section. And it doesn't put them in the trash or anything like that. It will permanently delete them, and there will be no way of getting them back. This has never actually happened to Timmy, but quite a few people have commented on other Tech Time with Timmy videos in the past, saying that their Chromebook deleted some important files because they ran out of storage space, and unfortunately, Timmy's had to tell them there's no way to get them back. So, if you do want to store files in the My Files section on your Chromebook, you can, that's perfectly fine. But if you have any important files in here that you don't want to lose, you want to make sure you keep checking how much storage space is still available on your Chromebook and make sure you don't completely run out of space. And if you ever do see this notification saying that your Chromebook has low storage, stop whatever you're doing and start immediately moving files somewhere else or deleting files you don't want or something like that. You'll need to do something to free up space on your Chromebook as soon as possible, and then all the files that are still on your Chromebook will be perfectly safe. Alternatively, if you have too many files and you can't fit them all on your Chromebook, or if you want to keep your important files somewhere else just to be safe in case it ever runs out of storage, you basically have two other options. One option is to keep some of your files on Google Drive. This can be a bit annoying if you often use your Chromebook offline, but there's usually pretty good internet just about everywhere these days, so that's probably not an issue for most people. And because Google Drive is right in the Files app like this, where you can just click on it and access all the files in here, it's still really easy to access all the files on your Chromebook, even though they're not actually stored on your Chromebook. Google Drive isn't unlimited. You do only get 15 gigabytes of storage for free, and that is actually fairly reasonable. You can store quite a lot of normal sized files on there with 15 gigabytes, but if you want to store more than that and you need more storage than 15 gigabytes, you can start paying for more storage. It's really pretty cheap to add a lot more storage to your account, so you can do that if you need to. If you click on Google Drive and go to the My Drive folder in the Google Drive section here, and then you come up and click on the three dots in the top right hand corner, you can see down here it now says 11.9 gigabytes available because we're now in the Google Drive section. So instead of showing you how much storage space is available on your Chromebook, it will now show you how much storage space is available on your Google Drive account. So Timmy currently has 11.9 out of 15 gigabytes available because this is a demo account. So Timmy could put quite a few more files on here with no problems. But if Timmy wanted to put all of Timmy's files on here, Timmy would need to upgrade to a larger plan. The other option, on the other hand, if you don't want to store your files on Google Drive because you don't want them to be online, or perhaps you have more than 15 gigabytes and you don't want to pay the monthly subscription, the other option would be to use an external storage device of some sort. You've probably seen a flash drive before. They're fairly standard. You just plug it into your computer and then you can store stuff on them. And you can actually get flash drives like this with quite a lot of space on them. And then you could just plug this into your Chromebook and then it'll create its own section on your Chromebook and you'll have a whole lot of extra storage connected to your Chromebook. Or, down a similar train of thought, you could get an external SSD or external hard drive like this, and it works basically the same way as a flash drive. You just plug it into your Chromebook, often with a cable, but you just plug it in like that, and then you can store a whole lot of stuff on it. And flash drives usually don't hold as much as external SSDs or external hard drives like this. This one actually holds 4 terabytes, which is 4,000 gigabytes, which is crazy when we're talking about 15 and 16 gigabytes and stuff before. So this is 4,000. Most people certainly wouldn't need a drive this big, but whatever size you think you might need, you can get an external drive like that that matches it. Or, Probably the most convenient option for extra storage like that is a micro SD card. And these things are really tiny. It's kind of hard to show to the camera, but here it is. And they're also a bit hard to hold. But a lot of Chromebooks will have a micro SD card slot somewhere on them. So you can have a look around the edges of your Chromebook and see if it has a micro SD card slot on it. And then if it does, you can get a micro SD card like this. This one is 128 gigabytes, so nowhere near as big as this thing, but it can still add really quite a lot of storage to your Chromebook. And then you can just slot it into the micro SD card slot on your Chromebook, and you'll have extra storage. When you put it in like that, you'll barely even know it's there. So you could just leave that in your Chromebook all the time. And now Timmy has an extra 128 gigabytes of storage on Timmy's Chromebook on here. And it's got its own section in here like that. And once you've connected a flash drive or external hard drive or SD card or anything like that to your Chromebook, and it creates its own section here, you can once again come up to the three dots and click there, and we can see the micro SD card that Timmy just put in has 60.2 gigabytes left. So now we have way more storage, so we can store a whole lot of files on this SD card. And when you connect any of these storage devices to your Chromebook, they pretty much all work just like flash drives. And Timmy does already have a separate video about connecting flash drives to your Chromebook. So if you want to learn in more detail about how to use those, you can go and watch that other video. But external drives like this are certainly a great option for adding additional storage to your Chromebook. And that's pretty much it. That's how you can store and manage files on your Chromebook. Sorry this video's been so long. Hopefully you didn't get too bored, but Timmy's pretty sure Timmy covered everything. So now you should have a good understanding of how to use the Files app on your Chromebook and manage all your files. And if by some small chance you still want to watch more videos about working with files on a Chromebook, you'll find links to all of Timmy's other Chrome OS Files app videos in the video description down below, or you can watch them all in a playlist right here. It's right here. See? Here it is. Should be here.